The security guard's eyes narrowed as he watched the young man walk through the main entrance of Whitmore University's physics building. It was 8:15 a.m. on a crisp September morning, and something about this particular visitor didn't sit right with him. The kid couldn't be more than 25, maybe younger, dressed casually in dark jeans and a navy blazer, carrying a worn leather messenger bag like every other student on campus. But there was something different about his posture, the way he moved with quiet confidence through the lobby, scanning the directory with the focused attention of someone who belonged there. What happens when the most brilliant mind to ever walk through those university doors gets mistaken for just another lost freshman? The answer will shock you and challenge everything you think you know about genius, age, and the dangerous assumptions we make every single day. Welcome to Voice of the Black, where extraordinary minds refuse to be underestimated. Before we dive into this incredible story of intellect meeting ignorance, tell us in the comments what city you're watching from today. And if you believe that brilliance has no age limit and intelligence comes in all colors, hit that subscribe button and join our community of truth seekers. Frank Morrison had been working security at Whitmore University for 15 years, and he prided himself on reading people. Students looked lost and eager. Faculty looked tired and important. Visitors looked confused and out of place. This young black man walking toward his desk didn't fit any of those categories, and that made Frank suspicious. "Can I help you?" Frank asked, not looking up from his newspaper. "I'm looking for faculty offices," the young man replied, his voice carrying an unexpected confidence. Frank glanced up, taking in the visitor's youthful face and casual attire. "You need to see a professor about something?" "Actually, I'm supposed to be working here. Today's my first day." Frank's eyebrows shot up. "Working here? Like maintenance or something?" The young man's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, but his voice remained calm. "No, not maintenance. Faculty." Frank let out a chuckle. "Come on, kid. You look like you should be in freshman orientation, not teaching classes." "I know I look young, but I assure you I'm qualified." The young man reached into his bag and pulled out official documents. "Here are my credentials." Frank examined the papers with growing confusion. Faculty contract, department assignment letter, temporary ID badge. All legitimate, all bearing the name Dr. Marcus Thompson, physics department. Frank looked from the documents to the young man's face and back again, trying to reconcile what he was seeing. "Well, I'll be damned," he muttered, handing the papers back. "Faculty offices are on the 3rd floor." As the young man walked toward the elevators, Frank shook his head in disbelief. In all his years at the university, he'd never seen anything like it. A professor who looked like he should be asking for directions to the dining hall. On the 3rd floor, Marcus Thompson unlocked his office door and stepped inside. The space was small but adequate, with boxes of research materials and personal items stacked in the corner. He'd earned this office through years of relentless work, but he knew that proving he deserved it was just beginning. A knock on the door interrupted his unpacking. "Come in," he called. A middle-aged woman with short blonde hair entered, looking around with curiosity. "Hi there, I'm Dr. Patricia Wells from chemistry. I saw someone in here and thought I'd introduce myself." "Nice to meet you. I'm Marcus Thompson." Dr. Wells smiled politely. "Are you a graduate student? I thought this office was assigned to new faculty." "I am the new faculty." The smile faltered. Dr. Wells blinked rapidly, processing this information. "Oh, I'm sorry, you look so young." "I get that a lot." How old are you?" 28. Dr. Wells's mouth fell open. 28? With a PhD? Marcus nodded. MIT. Just finished last spring. That's incredible. You must have been practically a child when you started college. 16. Dr. Wells stared at him in amazement. "Well, welcome to Whitmore. I have a feeling you're going to surprise a lot of people around here." She was right. Word traveled fast in academic circles, especially word about a professor young enough to be mistaken for an undergraduate. By mid-morning, Curious faculty members were finding excuses to walk past Marcus's office, stealing glances at the young man who was allegedly qualified to teach advanced physics. At 9:30, Marcus made his way to the basement lecture hall, where he would teach his first class, Physics 301, Advanced Quantum Mechanics. As he entered the room, he found it already occupied by early arriving students. They glanced his way but didn't pay him much attention. Just another student, they assumed, probably there for the same class. Marcus set up his materials at the front desk, connecting his laptop to the projection system, while students continued filtering in. By 10 a.m., about 40 students were seated, chatting among themselves and checking their phones, clearly waiting for their professor to arrive. A young woman in the third row finally spoke up. "Excuse me," she called to Marcus. "Yes." "Do you know if Professor Thompson is running late?" Class was supposed to start. The room gradually quieted as other students turned to listen. Marcus looked out at the sea of expectant faces, all waiting for his response. He walked to the center of the front of the room and smiled. "Professor Thompson is here," he said clearly. "I'm Dr. Marcus Thompson, and this is Advanced Quantum Mechanics." Complete silence. 40 pairs of eyes stared at him in shock. No one moved. No one spoke. The air conditioning hummed in the background, the only sound in a room full of stunned students. A young black student in the back row was the first to find his voice. "No way," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Marcus chuckled softly. "Yes way. I know I look young, but I promise I'm qualified to teach this class." Slowly, the students began to react. Phones came out as they checked course rosters and searched for information about their professor. Whispered conversations started and stopped. Several students just continued staring, still trying to process what they were witnessing. "I'm sorry, Dr. Thompson," the original questioner said, her face flushed with embarrassment. "I didn't expect. I just assumed." "It's perfectly understandable," Marcus replied kindly. "Now, shall we explore the fascinating world of quantum mechanics?" For the next 75 minutes, Marcus delivered a lecture that left his students speechless for entirely different reasons. He discussed wave-particle duality with an ease that made complex concepts seem simple. He explained Heisenberg's uncertainty principle using analogies that made abstract theories concrete. When he outlined his own groundbreaking research on quantum computing applications, several students stopped taking notes and just listened, captivated. As class ended, instead of the usual rush to pack up and leave, students lingered. Some approached with questions. Others just watched this young professor who had completely shattered their expectations. Dr. Thompson? Rebecca Chun, a senior physics major, raised her hand. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Of course." "How do you handle people not taking you seriously because of your age?" Marcus set down his marker thoughtfully. "Rebecca, respect isn't automatically given based on age or appearance. It's earned through knowledge, competence, and integrity. I can't control what people assume when they first see me, but I can control how I respond to those assumptions." Another student, James Rodriguez, spoke up. "Have you always been this advanced academically?" "I've always been curious about how things work. When I was 8, I dismantled every electronic device in our house, trying to understand them. My mother wasn't pleased." Several students laughed. But curiosity is just the starting point. The real work comes in studying, researching, failing, trying again. Natural ability might get you started, but dedication gets you where you want to go. As students filed out, many stopped to introduce themselves or ask additional questions. Marcus could see the transformation in their attitudes, from shock and skepticism to genuine respect and interest. But not everyone on campus was adjusting as easily to the reality of their youngest faculty member. Later that day, Marcus encountered Dr. Richard Holbrook, the physics department head, near the campus center. "Marcus," Dr. Holbrook called out with a smile, "how did your first lecture go?" "Very well, I think. Initial surprise, but strong engagement once we got started. Dr. Holbrook nodded knowingly. I'm sure there was surprise. I've been getting calls all morning from faculty who heard rumors about our new professor looking like he should be checking IDs at bars, not grading them. As if summoned by their conversation, Dr. William Patterson approached. Patterson was a senior faculty member known for his traditional views and resistance to departmental changes. Richard, Patterson nodded to Dr. Holbrook before turning to Marcus with poorly concealed skepticism. And you must be our new colleague. The pause was deliberate and loaded with meaning. Marcus extended his hand. Dr. Patterson, I presume? I've read your work on particle physics. Quite impressive. Patterson shook his hand without warmth. Tell me, Marcus, are you certain you're ready for the responsibilities of university-level instruction? Teaching requires more than just knowing material. It demands respect from students, colleagues, and the broader academic community. Dr. Holbrook's expression darkened, but Marcus remained composed. I appreciate your concern. I'm confident my work will demonstrate my capabilities. We'll see, Patterson replied dismissively. Remember, this isn't some progressive experiment. This is a serious institution with standards. The implication hung in the air like smoke. Patterson walked away, leaving an uncomfortable silence. Don't let him get to you, Dr. Holbrook said quietly. Patterson's been here 30 years and views any change as personal attack. Your research speaks for itself. That evening, Marcus sat in his apartment, reviewing student assignments and reflecting on his first day. His phone buzzed with a text from his mother. How was day one as Professor Thompson? He smiled, typing back, challenging but good. Minutes later, his phone rang. Tell me everything, his mother's warm voice commanded. Dr. Angela Thompson had been his first inspiration and biggest supporter, a high school principal in Baltimore. She'd recognized his potential early and fought to get him into advanced programs. She'd also taught him how to handle prejudice with dignity and determination. Marcus recounted the day's events. The security guard's disbelief, student shock, Dr. Patterson's hostility. His mother listened without interruption. Baby, she said when he finished, you know what this is really about, don't you? What do you mean? It's not just your age they're struggling with. A young black man with more education than people twice his age? That challenges some very deep assumptions about intelligence, achievement, and who belongs in positions of authority. Marcus had sensed the same undercurrents, but hadn't wanted to articulate them. I just want to focus on my work. And you should, but don't ignore the reality of what you represent. You're not just establishing a career. You're shattering expectations about what genius looks like. Over the following weeks, Marcus settled into university life. His classes grew in popularity as word spread about the young professor who made quantum physics accessible and exciting. Students from other majors began auditing his lectures, but challenges persisted. During faculty meetings, senior professors questioned his proposals with unusual intensity. When he suggested curriculum updates to include modern applications and diverse perspectives, Dr. Patterson openly scoffed. These are fads, Patterson declared. Physics fundamentals haven't changed. With respect, Marcus replied calmly, applications and implications are constantly evolving. Our students deserve to understand how their education connects to contemporary challenges. Dr. Sarah Kim, a younger faculty member, nodded agreement. Marcus has a point. Our enrollment has been declining. Maybe it's time for new approaches. Reactions were mixed. Some colleagues seemed intrigued, others resistant the change proposed by someone they still viewed as an outsider. Marcus's vindication came from an unexpected source. 3 weeks in, Dr. David Chun, a visiting professor from Stanford, attended one of his lectures. Dr. Chun was renowned in physics circles, someone whose work had influenced Marcus's own research. After class, Dr. Chun approached with obvious enthusiasm. That was exceptional. I've attended hundreds of physics lectures, and yours ranks among the finest. Your wave function explanation was brilliant. I'm adopting your approach. Praise from such a respected figure spread quickly through the department. Even Dr. Patterson seemed to moderate his criticism slightly. The real turning point came during Marcus's fourth week. Working late in his office, he heard raised voices in the hallway. Stepping out, he found two students, Rebecca Chun and David Williams, in animated discussion with Dr. Patterson. Professor Patterson, Rebecca was saying, Dr. Thompson's quantum field theory approach is revolutionary. He's making connections I never saw before. His quantum computing research is incredible, David added. He has funding proposals with NASA and IBM. Patterson noticed Marcus and approached. Your students seem quite impressed with your methods, he said, his tone less hostile than usual. They're bright students, Marcus replied. They make teaching rewarding. Patterson was quiet for a moment. I may have been premature in my assessment of your qualifications. Dr. Chen's endorsement carries weight, and student enthusiasm is obvious. Not quite an apology, but progress. The semester continued with Marcus finding his academic rhythm. His quantum mechanics course became the most popular physics elective, with waiting lists. Research proposals brought substantial grant funding. Even skeptical faculty gradually accepted that age had no bearing on intellectual capability. The most meaningful moment came during his final lecture. As students entered the hall, Marcus noticed the audience was larger than usual, registered students plus faculty, graduates, and administrators. As he concluded remarks about quantum physics' future applications, spontaneous applause erupted. Students stood, faculty nodded approvingly, and Marcus felt genuine belonging. After class, as students approached with thanks and farewells, Rebecca Chin lingered until the room emptied. Dr. Thompson, she said, I want to tell you something. When you first walked into this classroom, I didn't think you could teach us anything. I was wrong and I'm sorry. Marcus smiled. Rebecca, skepticism is healthy in science. What matters is how you respond to new evidence. You've changed how I think about physics, but more importantly, about assumptions. I'll never judge someone's capabilities based on expectations again. As winter break approached, Marcus reflected on his journey from that first day when security thought he was lost. He'd faced skepticism and subtle discrimination, but found support and recognition. His office now displayed thank you cards from students, collaboration invitations from colleagues, and speaking requests from conferences nationwide. The moving boxes were gone, replaced by awards, publications, and photos from department events where he was clearly accepted. On his last day before break, Dr. Holbrook visited with his evaluation. Outstanding in teaching, exceptional in research, exemplary in service, Dr. Holbrook read. The committee was unanimous. Marcus felt deep satisfaction. Thank you, Richard. It's been an incredible semester. Just the beginning. 3 universities have called asking about recruiting you. I'm not going anywhere. Marcus smiled. I like it here. That evening, packing his office, Marcus thought about how much had changed since September. He'd proven brilliance has no age requirement, that respect comes through competence rather than appearance, and that challenging assumptions benefits everyone. His phone buzzed with a text from his mother. Saw the Physics Journal article about your research funding. So proud of you, Professor Thompson. Marcus typed back, Thanks, Mom. Still can't believe they pay me to do what I love. Walking across a familiar campus, Marcus thought about students he'd taught, colleagues who become friends, and skeptics who become supporters. His first semester had been about more than establishing career. It proved genius comes in all packages, and the most dangerous assumption is thinking you know someone based on appearance. The security guard who questioned his credentials waved as he passed. Have a good break, Professor Thompson. Frank called with genuine warmth. You too, Frank, Marcus replied, using the name he'd learned during months of conversations. It had been a semester of challenges overcome, assumptions shattered, and respect earned. More importantly, it was the beginning of a career dedicated to pushing boundaries, not just in physics, but in people's understanding of what brilliance looks like. As Marcus drove to the quiet college town, he thought about students he'd inspired, research he'd advanced, and barriers he'd broken simply by excelling at what he did. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to prove age is just a number and intelligence recognizes no boundaries. The young man who'd been mistaken for a law student was exactly where he belonged, at his field's forefront, inspiring the next generation, proving that the most powerful revolution sometimes starts with someone walking into a room where they're not expected to belong. But Marcus's story was just beginning. As the spring semester started, his reputation had spread beyond the physics department. The young professor who'd been mistaken for a student had become something of a campus legend. Students from other universities came to audit his lectures, and his research on quantum computing applications was attracting attention from tech giants and government agencies alike. The transformation wasn't just professional, it was personal. Marcus had grown into his role, finding his voice not just as a teacher and researcher, but as a mentor and advocate for other young academics who didn't fit the traditional mold. One February morning, as he walked across the same quad where he'd first been questioned by Dr. Patterson, Marcus noticed a young woman sitting alone on a bench, crying softly. She was clearly a student, maybe 19 or 20, with textbooks scattered around her feet and a look of complete despair on her face. "Excuse me," Marcus said gently, approaching with the same care he'd learned to use with nervous students. "Are you okay?" The young woman looked up, her eyes red with tears. She was Latina, with long dark hair and wearing a university sweatshirt. "I'm fine," she said quickly, starting to gather her books. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." "You don't need to apologize," Marcus said, sitting down at the other end of the bench. "Mind if I sit for a minute? It's a beautiful morning." She hesitated, then nodded. "You're Dr. Thompson, aren't you? From the physics department." "I am." "And you are?" "Sophia Martinez." I was a pre-med student. Emphasis on was. Marcus waited, sensing there was more to the story. "I failed organic chemistry," Sophia continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "My advisor says I should consider changing majors. Says maybe I'm not cut out for medicine." Marcus felt a familiar anger rise in his chest. The same anger he'd felt every time someone had suggested he wasn't ready, wasn't qualified, wasn't the right fit. "What do you think?" Sophia looked at him with surprise. "What do you mean?" "I mean, what do you think? Do you love medicine? Do you want to help people? Do you have the determination to push through difficult courses?" "Yes," she said without hesitation. "I've wanted to be a doctor since I was 8 years old. My grandmother died because she couldn't afford proper medical care. I want to make sure that doesn't happen to other people." Marcus nodded. "Then one failed class doesn't define you. I failed calculus the first time I took it." Sophia's eyes widened. "You failed calculus? But you're a physics professor. I was 16 and thought I knew everything. Turns out I had a lot to learn about both calculus and humility." Marcus smiled at the memory. "The question isn't whether you failed. It's what you do next." They talked for 20 more minutes about study strategies, finding the right tutors, and the importance of not letting other people's limitations become your own. As Sophia gathered her books to leave for her next class, she turned back to Marcus. "Dr. Thompson, why did you help me? You don't even know me." Marcus thought about all the people who had helped him along the way. His mother, his undergraduate professors at Howard, the graduate advisors at MIT who had seen his potential when others saw only a kid who looked too young to be serious about science. "Because someone helped me when I needed it," he said simply. "And because the world needs doctors like you, people will remember what it feels like to be underestimated." Sophia smiled for the first time since he'd sat down. "Thank you, Professor Thompson. I won't forget this." As Marcus watched her walk away, he thought about the power of belief, both the destructive force of those who don't believe in you and the transformative power of those who do. He pulled out his phone and made a note to himself. Look into mentorship programs for underrepresented students in STEM. The rest of the spring semester flew by in a blur of teaching, research, and growing recognition. Marcus's quantum computing research earned him a feature article in Scientific American, and he was invited to speak at conferences in Tokyo, London, and Berlin. The university was clearly proud of their young star, featuring him prominently in recruitment materials and press releases. But perhaps the most meaningful recognition came from an unexpected source. In April, Dr. Patterson approached Marcus after a faculty meeting with something that looked suspiciously like humility. "Marcus," the older professor said, "I owe you an apology." Marcus was so surprised he nearly dropped his coffee. "Dr. Patterson, I was wrong about you. Not just wrong, I was unfair. I let my preconceptions about age and experience cloud my judgment about your qualifications and potential contributions." Patterson paused, clearly struggled with words that didn't come easily. "I've been teaching for 30 years, and I've never seen a young faculty member handle the transition to university life with such grace and professionalism. Your students adore you. Your research is groundbreaking, and you brought a level of excitement to the department that we haven't seen in decades." Marcus felt a mix of vindication and compassion. "I appreciate that, Dr. Patterson. It means a lot. I wanted you to know that I've been recommending you for the Young Faculty Excellence Award. It comes with a significant research grant and recognition at the national level." "Thank you," Marcus said, genuinely moved. "That's very generous." Patterson extended his hand. "I hope we can start over. I'd like to be a colleague, not an obstacle." As they shook hands, Marcus thought about how much had changed since that first day when he'd been mistaken for a delivery man in the lobby. Respect wasn't just about proving yourself once. It was about consistently demonstrating your value, while remaining open to those who needed time to see past their assumptions. The Young Faculty Excellence Award ceremony took place in May, just before graduation. Marcus's parents drove up from Baltimore, his mother wearing her proudest smile and his father, a quiet man who worked as a mechanic, looking uncomfortable but deeply proud in his best suit. As Marcus accepted the award, a crystal plaque and a check for $50,000 in research funding, he looked out at the audience and saw the journey that had brought him to this moment. Dr. Holbrook was beaming from the front row. Dr. Patterson was applauding enthusiastically. His students, current and former, were whooping and cheering from the balcony. But his eyes found Sophia Martinez, the pre-med student he'd met on the bench that February morning. She was working as a server at the awards dinner, earning money for summer school where she'd retake organic chemistry. When their eyes met, she gave him a thumbs up and mouthed, "Thank you." In his acceptance speech, Marcus talked about the importance of mentorship, the danger of assumptions, and the responsibility that comes with success. "A year ago," he said, "I walked into this university and was mistaken for a student, a delivery person, someone who didn't belong. That experience taught me that brilliance comes in all packages, and that our job as educators isn't just to teach facts and theories. It's to recognize potential wherever we find it and nurture regardless of what package it comes in." The applause was warm and sustained, but Marcus wasn't finished. "I want to announce that I'm using this research grant to establish the Breakthrough Scholars Program, a mentorship and support system for underrepresented students in STEM fields. Because the next great discovery might come from someone who doesn't look like what you expect a scientist to look like." The applause was deafening now, and Marcus saw several faculty members nodding approvingly. As he left the podium, Dr. Holbrook intercepted him with a huge grin. "That was brilliant, Marcus. Absolutely brilliant." "It felt right," Marcus replied. "Success means nothing if you don't use it to lift others up." Later that evening, at the reception following the ceremony, Marcus found himself surrounded by well-wishers, colleagues, and students. The conversation flowed from quantum mechanics to university politics to the challenges facing young academics. Dr. Sarah Kim, who had become one of his closest friends on the faculty, pulled him aside during a quiet moment. "You know what I find most impressive about your story?" she said. "What's that?" "It's not that you overcame people's assumptions. Lots of brilliant people do that. It's that you didn't let those assumptions make you bitter or close you off from helping others. You stayed open, stayed generous." Marcus thought about that as he drove home that night. The truth was, he had felt bitter at times, angry at the security guards who questioned his presence, frustrated with colleagues who doubted his abilities, exhausted by having to prove himself over and over again. But somewhere along the way, he'd realized that bitterness was just another limitation, another assumption about how the world worked. Instead of letting skepticism harden him, he'd let it motivate him. Instead of becoming defensive, he'd become generous. Instead of proving he belonged, he'd work to expand the definition of who could belong. The Breakthrough Scholars Program launched the following fall with 12 students. Young people from backgrounds that were underrepresented in STEM fields, each with brilliant potential and each facing obstacles that had nothing to do with their abilities. Sophia Martinez was the first student Marcus personally recruited. She'd retaken organic chemistry over the summer and earned an A-. When he offered her a spot in the program, she cried right there in his office. "Dr. Thompson," she said, "you saved my life that day on the bench." "No," Marcus replied gently. "You saved your own life. I just reminded you that you could." As his second year at Whitmore began, Marcus reflected on how much had changed since that first September morning when he'd walked through the physics building doors. He was no longer the young man trying to prove he belonged. He was an established member of the faculty, a recognized researcher, and a mentor to the next generation of scientists. But perhaps most importantly, he'd learned that belonging wasn't just about earning your place. It was about making room for others to earn theirs too. The security guard who'd first questioned his credentials, Frank Morrison, had become an unlikely friend. Frank made a point of greeting every visitor to the physics building with respect and curiosity rather than suspicion. He'd even started taking night classes in basic science, inspired by conversations with Marcus about the wonders of quantum mechanics. "You know what I learned from you?" Frank said one afternoon as Marcus was leaving the building. "What's that, Frank?" "That smart comes in all kinds of packages. My job isn't to figure out who belongs here. It's to help everyone who comes through that door find where they're supposed to be." As Marcus walked across campus on that crisp autumn afternoon, past the bench where he'd first met Sophia, past the lecture hall where he'd shocked his students, past the faculty offices where he'd gradually earned the respect of his peers, he thought about the journey that had brought him here. He thought about his mother, who'd worked multiple jobs to keep him in school and never doubted his potential. He thought about his father, who didn't understand quantum mechanics, but understood hard work and determination. He thought about the professors at Howard and MIT who'd seen past his age to his abilities. And he thought about all the young people, Sophia and the other breakthrough scholars, the students in his classes, the brilliant minds who might walk through those glass doors tomorrow or next year or a decade from now, who would face the same skepticism he'd faced, the same assumptions, the same need to prove that intelligence comes in every color and brilliance has no age limit. His phone buzzed with a text from his mother. "Saw the article in the Washington Post about your mentorship program. So proud of the man you become." Marcus smiled as he typed back, "Thanks, Mom." Still learning every day. That evening, in his office that was now decorated with awards and thank you notes from students, Marcus sat down to prepare his lecture for the next day. Advanced Quantum Mechanics had a waiting list 3 times longer than available seats. Students came not just for the subject matter, but for the chance to learn from the professor who taught them that preconceptions were just another problem to solve. As he worked, Marcus thought about the young man who'd walked into this building 2 years ago, nervous about fitting in, worried about proving himself, focused on earning respect. That young man had been brilliant, determined, and talented, but he'd been thinking too small. The real victory hadn't been proving that he belonged in that lecture hall or that corner office. The real victory had been expanding the definition of who could belong there, making sure the doors he walked through would stay open for others, and using his success as a platform to lift up the next generation of minds that might not fit traditional expectations. Because in the end, genius isn't just about being the smartest person in the room. It's about making sure the room gets bigger, brighter, and more welcoming for everyone who has the courage to walk through the door. Never judge a book by its cover, and never assume you know someone's story based on age, appearance, or background. The most brilliant minds often come in unexpected packages. And the person you underestimate today might be the one who changes your understanding of what's possible tomorrow. But more than that, the person you lift up today might be the one who changes the world tomorrow. Genius doesn't wait for permission, and excellence doesn't ask for approval. It simply shows up, proves itself, and then reaches back to help others climb the same mountain.